Hello and welcome to grammar class. Today's lesson is common errors with sequence of tenses. Father asked me what I am doing. He thought that he can mislead the police. Why are both these sentences grammatically incorrect? Let's check out. To begin with, let me tell you that these mistakes with sequence of tenses pertain to complex sentences in English grammar. So first off, let's learn what a complex sentence is like. Well, a complex sentence consists of one main or principal clause and one or more subordinate or dependent clauses. The subordinate clause is introduced by a subordinating conjunction that joins it with the main clause in the sentence. If, when, while, that, unless, until, etc. are some examples of subordinating conjunctions. But then what is the sequence of tenses? As you know, in a complex sentence, the subordinate or dependent clause depends on the main or principal clause for the completion of its meaning. So naturally, the main clause and the subordinate clause are closely related in meaning. So in English grammar, the sequence of tenses is a set of rules that tell us which tense you have to use in the subordinate clause according to the tense of the main clause. In other words, the sequence of tenses tells us if the main clause has a certain tense, which tense will follow in the subordinate clause. Now, according to the rules of sequence of tenses, if the main clause has a present or future tense verb, the subordinate clause may be in any tense. However, if a subordinate clause is introduced by a subordinating conjunction like if, when, until, unless, as soon as, etc., it only has simple present tense when the main clause has a future tense. But quite often we mistakenly use future tenses in both the main clause and the subordinate clause in such cases. In the first sentence here, we shall be waiting until he returns. The subordinate clause is introduced by the subordinating conjunction until. So although the main clause has a future tense verb shall be waiting, the subordinate clause has a simple present tense returns. The use of the simple future verb will return is incorrect here. In the next example, the subordinate clause starts with the subordinating conjunction as soon as, so the present tense verb comes in has been used here. The use of the simple future tense will be incorrect here, although the main clause has a future tense will stand up. Then in the last example, the subordinate clause starts with the subordinating conjunction if, so the verb over it is in the simple present tense, although the main clause has a future tense verb will fall ill. Obviously, if I use the simple future tense will over it in the subordinate clause here, it will be a mistake. However, if the principal clause has a past tense verb, the verb in the subordinate clause must be in an appropriate past tense only. In such a case, the verb in the subordinate clause cannot be in any present or future tense. And this is where tense errors are made in complex sentences. I mean, even when the main clause has a past tense, we use the verb in the subordinate clause in either present or future tense. For example, in the sentence, John believed that he is the best player, the main clause, John believed, has a past tense, believed. So the subordinate clause should also have a past tense verb. That's why the present tense is incorrect in this sentence. And the correction is, John believed that he was the best player. In the next example also, the verb in the main clause, asked, is in the past tense. Hence, in the subordinate clause, the present continuous tense am going is incorrect. According to the sequence of tenses, the past continuous was going should be used here. Now look at the next example. The main clause has a past tense verb, felt. So the use of the simple future will die in the subordinate clause is grammatically incorrect. We should use the past form of will, would, in this sentence. As you can see, because of the past tense verb felt in the main clause, we are using would and not will in this sentence. Similarly, in the main clause, the verb walked is in the past tense, so in the subordinate clause, we cannot use can. We should use the past form of can, could, to correct this sentence. Here are some more examples on your screen. In the sentence, the doctor said that the patient has died, the main clause, the doctor said, has a past tense verb said. So the use of the present perfect tense has died in the subordinate clause is out of the question. We should use the past perfect tense had died here, and the correction is the doctor said that the patient had died. The sentence we rushed out to see what is happening is also incorrect. Why? Because in the main clause we have a past tense verb rushed, but in the subordinate clause we have present continuous is happening. According to the sequence of tenses, in the subordinate clause, the past continuous tense was happening should be used. In the next example, I decided to wait until the rain stops. The use of the simple present tense stops in the subordinate clause is incorrect. Here too, the verb in the main clause decided is in the simple past tense. So the verb in the subordinate clause should also be in the past tense, and the correction is I decided to wait until the rain stopped. But do remember that this rule of the sequence of tenses is not applicable if the subordinate clause contains an eternal or universal truth. For example, in the sentence, the teacher said that the earth is round, the subordinate clause, that the earth is round, contains an eternal truth. An eternal truth means something that does not change with time, that is true forever. So in this sentence, although the verb in the main clause said is in the past tense, the verb in the subordinate clause is also in the present tense. It cannot be in the past tense here. Take another example. The doctor told the patients that smoking causes cancer. Here too, the subordinate clause, that smoking causes cancer, contains a universal fact or eternal truth. That's why, in spite of the past tense verb told in the main clause, the verb in the subordinate clause, causes, is in the simple present tense. There is no need to change it into the past tense caused. So this is an exception to the sequence of tenses. Another exception to this rule of the sequence of tenses is when the subordinate clause is introduced by the conjunction than. That is, if the main clause has a past tense verb but the subordinate clause starts with then the subordinate clause may have any tense as the sense demands. For example, in the sentence, people lived more peacefully in the past than they do now, the main clause has a past tense verb lived, but the subordinate clause has the present tense verb do. In the next example, the verb in the main clause loved is in the simple past tense, but in the subordinate clause we have used the simple present tense loves. Last but not the least, the subordinate adverb clause of time that is initiated by the conjunction since has simple past tense only when the main clause has present perfect tense. People have a tendency to use the past perfect or present perfect tense in such subordinate clauses. In the example given here, the main clause has a present perfect tense, has not contacted. The subordinate adverb clause of time starts with since in this sentence. So we must use the simple past tense quit here and not the past perfect or the present perfect tense. But make no mistake, this rule is applicable only in the case of the adverb clause of time starting with since for the present perfect tense in the main clause. That's the end of today's class. Hopefully you liked the video. Please be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe to our channel for more grammar videos. Thank you.